104.5 The Team, your home for New York Yankees baseball. It's the favorite time of the week for everybody. Buster Olney joins us right now. Buster, the Aroldis Chapman trade, the big story for most people in baseball. The question becomes, who won the trade, the Yankees or the Cubs?
Well, I think they both accomplished what they wanted to accomplish in terms of the value and what was gotten. With the Cubs, it's going to remain to be seen for in October, because if you're the Cubs and your chances at the moment that you made that deal of making the postseason are 98.2%, you didn't get Aroldis Chapman because you're trying to get into October. You got Aroldis Chapman because you think he could be the difference between you winning the World Series or not. And so we'll just have to withhold judgment from the Cubs end until then, because they paid heavily for this. There's no doubt about it. When you talk to people of the other teams about what the Yankees got back, look, Adam Warren is looked at as a serviceable pitcher. That's not really a big deal. Billy McKinney, who was the outfield prospect that they got, who had come over from Oakland, he's kind of a falling star in terms of being a prospect, and we'll see if he picks up his career. But Torres, the young infielder that they got in this deal, who was the centerpiece of the deal, he's considered to be legitimate. And my instinct, when I saw the first video of him swinging a bat, my thought was, wow, that guy is like perfect for Yankee Stadium, because he's a right-handed hitter who chronically takes the ball the other way, and you could see him taking advantage of the Yankee Stadium dimensions. And I tell you this, people of the other teams thought the Yankees got a tremendous package for Chapman because of what we talked about in recent years. As in a terrible year for the Yankees, I think generally speaking, in the trade market, Brian Cashman, the Yankees general manager, he's got the golden tickets that every other team wants in the postseason, the two best guys, in Chapman and Miller, and he cashed in one big time on Chapman.
So I saw that as an insider, I can read all your stuff, Buster, on ESPN.com. This trade, bigger than just what it did for the Cubs and the Yankees, there's ripples felt for this thing through the whole league.
To the point that there is a conspiracy theory that some really smart people in baseball absolutely believe that Theo Epstein basically carpet-bombed the trade market, and that was part of his calculation in making this trade, that he has totally reset the parameters of what teams could expect to have to pay for a reliever, what they'd get for a reliever, by going so far above and beyond that it's almost thrown the relief pitcher market into chaos, where, right off the bat, when other teams have called the Kansas City Royals for Wade Davis, they're being told, look, you have to give up even more than what the Cubs got for what the Cubs gave up for Chapman. And, when the Yankees are having conversations, I wonder if it's complicated their talks about Andrew Miller. And it's actually, I think, potentially has flushed out a couple teams into the trade market with a couple closers, David Robertson and Mark of the White Sox and Mark Melancon of the Pirates, because I think people are so surprised by how much the Yankees got in return for Chapman.
So who do you think, Buster, is next to go?
Well, I think in terms of the Yankee players, it still remains to be seen, because if you remember how this played out, the Cubs made their offer last Friday, and it wasn't for 48 hours until Hal Steinbrenner signed off. It's clear there's a real reluctance on the part of the Yankees ownership to necessarily be selling these players. And to me, if one guy goes, if you decide that you're willing to trade Carlos Beltran as a free agent year's end, you might as well go all in and be willing to trade Andrew Miller, who's never going to have higher trade value than he has right now. I think the Yankees are out of their minds if they don't take advantage of the current marketplace and get some really good players. And again, we've been sort of riffing in recent weeks about what they could get. Let's say the Texas Rangers, who I think are the front runners to get Miller, agree to put Joey Gallo in the trade. And, you got Gallo, and you have Torres, and you have Greg Bird coming back next year, and you have Starlin Castro, and let's say you get a pitching prospect. I mean, all of a sudden the Yankees, it's going to feel like that they have a different type of future, and that they, will have transitioned, from an old team into a team that has a chance to be pretty good and pretty young in a couple of years especially. And so I'm curious, though, to see whether or not Hal Steinbrenner actually signs off on this. I do think that this, burst of Yankees wins since the All-Star break is a mirage. That's not a team that's going to play deep in October.
Buster Olney. Buster.
You just crushed him.
How dare you, sir? well, Buster, though, they make the deal. They give up a third of no runs DMC, and in the meantime, they're on this big winning streak, which you've called a mirage. Are they a kind of team where they've got sneaky talent, and even if they do make some of these deals, they may still be in the wild card hunt, seeing as how they're only 4 games out right now?
Well, I mean, let's face it. If they trade Carlos Beltran, you might as well be. He's like the human white flag to me in this team, right? When you think about what Beltran's meant to the middle of this lineup, you take him out. Yeah. I mean, that is the surrender. To me, you could even say the same thing about Andrew Miller, because then all of a sudden the Yankees bullpen becomes a question mark. So, yeah, I think. I hope that right now, as we lead up to the trade deadline, that Hal Steinbrenner's making up his mind on this. So that when Brian Cashman calls him on Saturday or Sunday and gives him the offers for Beltran and Andrew Miller and some of the other guys, Ivan Nova, that he has an answer and is ready to say, absolutely move it, because it doesn't make any sense to me to sort of go half in. If you're going to sell, then sell the guys who can be sold, and if you're not, then you probably might even think about adding a fringier guy. But I can't imagine they think about doing that because, again, it's not in the Yankees world. The Steinbrenner doctrine, George Steinbrenner doctrine, is the whole thing is about winning the World Series, and I don't think the Yankees would get excited if they just merely made the postseason at this point.
So, Buster, basically, if Ivan Nova's traded, if Brett Gardner's traded, they're still trying to compete. But as soon as you see Beltran or Miller leave, just know that this is about 2017, 2018.
That's what I believe, yeah.
Real throwing into the towel.
No doubt about it. It would be like a boxer, who's taking some punches, and that would be the talent. And you know what? I mean, I live in Westchester, and a lot of my friends are Yankee fans. I talk to my sense is that the Yankee fan base is a lot more ready for this than Yankee ownership. And I had a conversation. I'm trying to remember which team it was, but I had a conversation with an executive of a team recently about his team's questions, and he said, you know what? Fans are a lot more savvy than they used to be, and they get so excited. We see this with the NFL draft every year. They get so excited about hope of the future and possibilities. And so, old school George Steinbrenner, old school baseball thought was, boy, if you sell in August, then your fans will give up on you. They'll resent you for it because they bought tickets. And I really think that that's changed. I think fans these days are much more sophisticated than they used to be, and they get excited about having a Torres, a Gallo. Again, that's me riffing on Gallo, but those type of players, because then they'd say this team's going to get younger and has a better chance for next year and the year after that.
I mean, how reasonably quick can we see Torres? I mean, he's only 19.
Oh, you're not going to see him this year for sure.
Yeah.
I think just having them in the organization, they would present hope. We know this because how many years, how long did the Nationals fans hang on to Steven Strasburg as a sign of hope before he was called up? A year. And I think that what we saw with the Mets for a couple of years, it was, boy, we got some young pitching on the come, and once they got there, then that was a team that turned it around. I think Yankee fans we're going to enjoy having, for the first time next year, essentially a young core of players as opposed to the old guys that they've been running out there a lot in the last couple of years.
What about Chris Sale? I had heard something about it this morning. I forgot where I read it, about him potentially being somebody who might be traded.
Well, they've been talking about Chris Sale with a lot of other teams. They've made it known to other clubs that they can call about Chris Sale, they can call about Jose Quintana, they can call about David Robertson, Todd Frazier. They'll listen on anybody. I think the question is going to be whether or not somebody can actually step up and give him a Herschel Walker type package. This huge return for the White Sox. My instinct is, and I know it's shared by some baseball executives, is that that's just not going to happen, that the White Sox asking price is too high, and a lot of this is gathering information for the winter when it's easier to make a big trade like that.
Buster Olney joins us right here on 104.5 The Team. Weird to hear a Vikings fan make the Herschel Walker reference.
Well, that's because it just sticks with me as a fan of an organization which has done nothing but lose the Super Bowl.
Right. Well, all right. So, Buster, the other New York team, the New York Mets, the Mets fans still kind of holding out hope that they'll make some kind of a move. We've heard Lucroy's name. We've heard some other stuff, but Sandy Alderson looks like he's going to stand pat and not make any big moves. Can we expect anything out of the Mets?
Maybe fringy type stuff, secondaries type stuff. That's my sense of it. That look, again, if you're given truth serum and you lock the door and you're having a meeting among club executives, you have to look at the team and say, no Harvey, question marks about Matz. We're hoping that Syndergaard can stay healthy in spite of that bone spur, and so based on that, the front office has to decide whether or not to invest more. And I think any reasonable person would say probably not. But I do think that if they have some opportunities, a really cheap starting pitcher, if they found that they could make the Lucroy deal reasonably, those would be things that they would look at. But I got to tell you, my sense is that Lucroy, first off, 90% chance he's going to be traded by 4:00 on Monday, and that the price tag is going to be really high. And in a lot of respects, he's a perfect fit for the Mets. But I just don't know, in a year in which they've lost so much pitching because of injury, I don't know if their mindset really is to step up and pay heavy.
Buster, Olney with Levack and Wolf right now, 104.5 The Team. So our lead-in here in Albany, Buster, is Hahn and Humpty. And they've got this weird bet going. Whoever is better this year, the loser has to get the opposing team's logo tattooed on him. Hahn is a Yankee fan. Humpty is a Mets fan. So in a roundabout way of me finding out which team you think is better off, what tattoo logo is going? Who's going to be better?
The Mets are going to be better. Look, I think that the Yankees front office is going to, in the end, be able to convince Hal Steinbrenner that it's time to turn this team over and trade Carlos Beltran, who they're not going to re-sign for next year, and trade Andrew Miller and some other pieces, Ivan Nova, maybe Brett Gardner. And in that case, the last 2 months could be ugly for the Yankees. I think the Mets are a good enough team with, when you can run out of Jacob deGrom and a Bartolo Colon and Steven Matz and Syndergaard as long as you can, as long as they're healthy, then you're probably going to win more games than the Yankees are going to have. Sorry to tell you that, Levack.
Yeah, well.
I know. We just talked about how these young players represent hope for the Yankees, and I feel like I'm just ripping hope away from you after this nice little burst of run they've had since the All-Star break.
Well, this is what they've done to me all year, though, Buster. Like, I'll go, you know what? You're not bringing me back in. It's time to trade. I give up on this year. It's all about the future. And then